Hi folks, here we are at the storage unit again, and what goodies do I have for you tonight, you might ask? Well, let's find out here. Right here we have a box. That's a beautiful box, isn't it? And that says new M to POW, so that means it should be something like New Mutants, right at the beginning. Look at that. How
New M
awesome
to
is
Prisoner
that?
of War, huh?
Yes, New Mutants 27, or no, number 2. Number 2, yes. So, unfortunately, as you can tell, I don't have number 1, but number 2 is the next best thing, right? Anyway, there's New Mutants 3. So this is, an X-Men related book, but it was pretty good in its own right. So I have 5, 6, 7. So I have at least 2 through 7 complete, if anybody's interested. And then, of course, this jumps to 20. Now this has some great Bill Sienkiewicz art. And, I think I've mentioned this in another video that he's very eclectic, and, I think it was Electro Assassin I was talking about at the time. But yeah, he has a very, very interesting art style, and he brought it to New Mutants. So,
Badlands, huh?
yeah, so he's got some good stuff. That's more Bill Sienkiewicz. He's always worth a look because the art is never really what you expect, but it's always interesting. So that's 23.
When you
so
say what you expect, you mean what you would expect, like based on the title of the
22, 23, hold
comic.
on, 24. I have 20 to 24 of New Mutants if anyone's interested. When I say what you expect, like traditional comic book art is this does not look like, traditional comic book art.
No, it doesn't.
So, I mean, and it's great that he pushed the boundaries and had a style of his own. So it's interesting. It just, it pushes boundaries, which is good. It's nice to see that. But this is New Talent Showcase, which was something that DC did in the 80s, where new writers and artists could do short stories or something and, get exposure for their craft. I don't know if any big names ever came out of that. Like Mark Bagley won the Marvel Comics tryout, which was a really amazing thing. They had a whole thing where they had unfinished art pages, and you could ink them or color them, and you could do lettering. You could even have new fresh art pages. And Mark Bagley, who became a really great artist, actually won and became a known entity. So that's pretty cool. And I don't know.
There was one that came out.
Well, that was Marvel. So this New Talent Showcase, I don't know if anyone ever came out of this, and that's my lack of knowledge. Maybe somebody did, but I just think it's interesting that DC even had that option. I think that's great. This is New Universal Shockfront, written by Warren Ellis. So I've mentioned Warren Ellis a number of times. He's always worth getting. So something to keep in mind. This is New Warriors, of course, number 2 again. But I can't remember who the creators behind this were. If I find one that's unbagged, I'll have a look inside.
Do you have any number 1s in this box?
Maybe. There's New Warriors with the Punisher, so that's always good. Here's some. Okay. So this is number 3. And the creators are, I think that is pronounced Nicieza.
I'd say Nicieza, probably.
Nicieza or Nicieza. And there's the aforementioned Mark Bagley, who is the artist on this book. So this is pretty good. I always liked, I feel terrible that I don't know how to pronounce his name exactly. It's Fabian Nicieza. He's the co-creator of Deadpool, among other things. But he's done some really great comic books in the past. And I will say, he's also the uncredited co-creator of Deadpool, because he very rarely gets mentioned when they're talking about Deadpool. But he should.
How do you know that he co-created Deadpool?
He's listed on Marvel's database. So this is New Warriors 14, Darkhawk Namor. 15, there's Nova. So yeah, there's some really cool stuff in New Warriors as well. Tarax Unleashed. X-Force. Gideon. Let's see if the creative team is still in place at this point. Yep, still Nicieza and Mark Bagley. Right there at the bottom.
Oh, it's down here.
Yeah. So very much worth getting. Both writer and artist, plying their trade and making some good comic books. So these go into the 20s now. 24, 28. So there's Torpedo. Who mourns the Hellions. This is in 31, guest starring X-Force, Cannonball, and Warpath. So yeah, you can see I have a bunch of New Warriors. Oh, there's Spider-Man. Can't have a comic book in Marvel without Spider-Man guest appearing at some point. There it is again. So there's New Warriors 40 with Nova. There's New Warriors 45, 46. So yeah, there's a bunch of New Warriors, suffice it to say. That's 56. So I have a pretty good run, actually.
61, that says.
Yeah, 61. So that looks like maximum clonage. So it looks like Spider-Man or Venom figures into this in some way.
How do you figure that?
Because Venom, or what it says maximum.
Oh, that looks like
maximum
Venom. Yeah,
clonage.
okay.
Yeah. So there's New Warriors. That's annual 3. So moving on. This is a new X-Men. I was never really much of an X-Men fan, as I said in my previous video with X-Men, but I liked the series a lot, and it's because I liked Grant Morrison as a writer. And from what I understand, he kind of turned the X-Men on its ear, and people who were familiar with X-Men weren't really too bowled over by this series, but I liked it. So anyway, that's a good one. This is Next Men, which was a series that John Byrne created after he left both Marvel and DC behind. So there are some issues here. This is Faith. This is number 19, and this is number 20. Here's Nexus, a really great independent book by Mike Barron, and it started with Steve Rude. This one is drawn by Mark Heike, that I'm not too familiar with, but Nexus was a really great space odyssey story, and the first 3 issues, really excellent. I would highly recommend if you can find a trade paperback or something. They're really great. This is Nexus the Liberator. Mike Barron, I think, stayed with Nexus throughout most of his books, but there were other people. Like this one is written by Stefan Petruka. So there are different creators, but Mike Barron did stay with Nexus through a lot of the issues that came out. GodCon, Mike Barron and Steve Rude reunited, so that's pretty cool.
That's a funny title.
Yeah. And here's Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. This, I have a note here that says it's missing the last page. It's not affecting the story, but the last page apparently of the book is missing the back covers there, which is strange. So there must have been a pinup or something that was of interest. But this is from the 60s. I believe this is the late 60s of Nick Fury. Here's number 10. Cool cover. That's number 12, 13, 14, and 17, which I think that these might have been reprints, but I can't remember exactly. But the series ended shortly after that. So this is a relaunched Nick Fury. I believe this was in the early 90s, maybe. And these are written by a guy named D.G. Chichester and Keith Pollard art, who did some great work on... D.G. Chichester did some great work on Daredevil in the mid-90s, I think. So I'm going to start moving because I think that I might be pushing the boundaries of time. So I have a bunch of those new series there. So one with Deathlock. This is Nick Fury versus S.H.I.E.L.D. It's a prestige format, which is basically this. It's a more solid spine, and it's more like a book. It was kind of brought into vogue by The Dark Knight Returns, and it's incredible success. So this format is, I think, called the prestige format, but they did one for Nick Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. So I got a couple of issues of that. This is Nightman, of course, number 2, written by a great guy, Steve Englehart, who did some great comic books for Marvel and DC in the 70s, but always worth reading. I think there might have even been a TV show based on this character, too. So that's number 19. That's number 23. So that went on for a while. This is Night Mask, and there finally is a number 1. This is New Universe, which Marvel started to create new characters and titles in the 80s, which eventually fizzled out, unfortunately, but they tried. So, Night Mask. So that's 1, 2, and 9. This is Night Thrasher, who was a character who I believe is related to New Warriors, which I think we saw earlier. So that's number 2, of course. So there's some issues with Night Thrasher here. Number 6, I believe, number 15, and there's Hulk. So, yeah, Night Thrasher. This goes into issue 3. That's 4 Control, so that's what that one's called. So Night 4 Control. I have 3, 1, 2, and 3 of Night Thrasher 4 Control. So here's Nightwing, who is Dick Grayson, formerly Robin. Oh, these have marks on them. So never mind. I don't have those.
What do you mean marks?
In the UPC box, so they're pretty much defaced. So I would just include them as a giveaway in some other auction. So here are some other random end titles. This one is Ninja High School. This is Nomad number 1. Again, the miniseries is really great, and this is the ongoing series. The first couple of issues were excellent, and This featured art by a guy named Samuel Clark Hawbaker, which tragically he only drew about, maybe 10 issues total, but he was a really, really good artist, and it's a shame that there isn't more of his work. But Nomad, I would recommend both the miniseries and the ongoing series. This is a character. Captain America became Nomad when he lost faith in America in the mid-70s and donned the identity of Nomad, and then the Bucky of the 50s. It's hard to explain, but this is the Bucky of the 50s, not the Bucky Barnes Bucky, but this is a different guy who's named Jack. I forget what his last name is, but he became Nomad. It's a very cool series, very much worth getting. It's too much to explain right now. This is Normal Man, North Star #1. That's first issue of a miniseries, and this is great. This is not Brand Eck, Marvel's comedy magazine, and it really works. It's very funny. There's some good humor in there. Here's Nova. He was a character that was introduced and of course has become much larger, of course, in the confines of Guardians of the Galaxy, but this is the 3rd issue. So this was introduced in the 70s, and there's some cool stories here. So,
Oh, is he like the Nova Prime?
yeah. This one has a chewed up bit at the top of the cover, but there's some great stuff in Nomad.
Was that
Nova.
a cat or was that
I don't know, it's just age. So yeah, I actually have a pretty good run of Nova. So if you're interested in Nova, this is the relaunched Nova in the 90s. #2. This is Obnoxio versus the X-Men, which I don't really know exactly what that's all about. But here's OMAC, which was a creation of Jack Kirby, and that's Joe Kubert art on the cover. That's, of course, I have 2 #8s. This is Omega, a character that was created by, I believe, Steve Gerber.
It's pronounced Gerber.
I think it's Gerber. It's either Gerber or Gerber. Yeah, Steve Gerber. So yeah, this was a character that was created in the 70s and, had some interesting stuff. I think he also created Howard the Duck. So Omega the Unknown, #4. There's #5 and 6. So I got a good run. 8, 9. So there's Omega Men that Lobo was introduced in, but that issue was not here. This is Onslaught Reborn. This is Our Fighting Forces. Oh, no, this is Our Army at War with Sergeant Rock. This is Our Fighting Forces, featuring the Losers, which is also, I think, related to DC's war effort. So, yeah, some cool stuff. That looks like a Jack Kirby cover.
Bunch of losers. I mean, come on.
Outsiders. This is a prestige. It's not prestige, but it's a more hardcover type of book. This is #1. There's more Outsiders there.
#1.
Yeah, there's Outsiders more. So this is Over the Edge. It's starring Daredevil, the Men Without Fear. Paradise X, starring their division of Captain America. It's an alternate universe, so it's pretty cool stuff. This is the Partridge Family, if you're interested in 60s TV shows. Pendulum, which is an independent. What time do we have?
13:04.
Yeah, I'm going to cut this short probably. This is Pep, which is an Archie book. And here's Phantom Guard, which I'm not sure what. Let's see, Ruffner. So this is an Image book, but I don't know too much about it. So I'm going to go with Phantom Stranger and then stop. But this is Phantom Stranger, who was one of the, the magical, mystical area of DC. So there's some cool stories in there, some horror.
Follow me, for I am Phantom Stranger.
Yeah, so this went on for a good long while, and I have some issues here. So Jim Aparo art. So that's always worth giving a look. This goes on. This is #26. So Phantom Stranger meets Frankenstein. And this is Dr. 13, Terrence 13. So that's it for this box, and I'm going to stop there because of the time. And I may get back to this later, but that's it for that box. So there's pretty good stuff there. And if anybody is interested, by all means, please, as I always, leave a comment or contact me via eBay Messenger, and I will leave the links below. Thank you again for watching, and have a great day.